Hey, baby, I hear those blues a calling. It's time for the Frasier on Frasier podcast, season 2. Hello, it's me, your host, Adam Frasier, and with me is Wes Corwin. How you doing, Wes?
It's me, Wes Corwin. Also, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Something that's new this season that we didn't mention last episode is that I got a new mic.
Yes.
So if my audio sounds better this season, that's the reason.
Uh-huh.
I got like an adjustable stand and a pop filter.
It's got a whole mechanism where you can raise and lower it. It looks very good.
I've got a cough button, which if I press it, it actually forces me to cough.
That's technology for you. That's crazy. Jesus. Is that what the... Good Lord. Is that the button?
Yeah.
You should...
I think it tastes blood.
You should get that button looked at. That's wild, man.
Yeah, that's blood.
That is... You are sick. And that button is not good. Don't. Hey,
I'm not gonna press it again.
Let's never use that cough button again. That is
all right.
Awful.
Let's get into this. Let's get into today's episode.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about season 2, episode 2 of Frasier, the unkindest cut of all.
The unkindest cut of all, which was this was nominated for an outstanding directorial achievement in comedy series with the Directors Guild of America.
Oh, well, that's a very hard. It's very prestigious.
It is,
and it's also it's a Shakespeare reference.
Ah, is it?
Except instead of it being about Julius Caesar being stabbed, it's about Eddie being neutered.
Yep, I believe
he's getting Bob Barkered.
It's been a while since I took English in senior level English. I ended up taking 2 AP years. I ended up taking a couple college classes. I do recall that I think Shakespeare's first draft, they weren't trying to kill Caesar. They were trying to cut his penis. I feel like
they were trying to neuter his dog.
They were trying to neuter his dog. Brutus and they all got together and they were like, "Hey, we got to neuter his dog." And then the murdering him was largely an unhappy accident that they. Yeah.
So we've got Eddie being neutered, mm-hmm. But this is really a Martin and Frasier episode.
It really is.
Yeah, and it's about Martin and Frasier and their relationship as father and son, and when you get down to it, it's an episode. It's about family.
It is. It is real. I will say this episode, nice little bit. Again, this harkens back a lot to, I think, season 1, episode 1, where not only is there a lot of comedy, you can really feel the tension and between two people that really want to get along, even though they don't always see eye to eye. And this really harkens back to that original relationship, kind of a return to form of what the initial premise was for the show, I think.
Can you have a return to form in the second episode of your second season, though?
Yes, absolutely you can, because they did.
Okay. So we might as well get started. We start off, it's Sunday in the Park with Eddie is our title card. Mm-hmm. We fade in, and it's Martin and Daphne in Frasier's apartment. Daphne is doing laundry. She's folding socks and ironing stuff. Mm-hmm. Martin comes in and he's like, "Oh, why don't you just twist Frasier's socks into little balls like you do mine?" And Daphne's like, "Oh, it's because it bruises the cashmere." And he gets mad at me and he threatens to dock my wages.
Yeah. It's a real abusive work relationship between Daphne and Frasier.
Right. And Martin is, they're basically, Daphne and Martin are making fun of Frasier because he's very fussy when it comes to his things.
He likes his socks arranged, not only pressed, folded, but put into sock dividers.
And alphabetized.
Daphne's only seen this in a catalog and couldn't imagine anyone ever doing this. By just divided into a sort of Dewey Decimal System, but for socks.
Yeah, and Martin makes the comment that when they first got Frazier home from the hospital, they thought there was some sort of mix up. I don't know how. Well, not. I guess not immediately after bringing him home from the hospital, because he wouldn't have had a personality. You don't like learn to think until you're like, I don't know, like 2 or 3.
Right.
But,
No. Yeah. I don't think there are a lot of. I mean, there are probably some that are looking at a baby and going, "This is not my." Usually,
unless he
happens,
was just a very fancy baby as a child. I can imagine that for Frazier as just being a very fancy baby.
Just a prissy newborn that as they were cutting the umbilical cord, he wanted it folded and pressed. And you know how it goes when you're a fussy baby.
And to prove Martin's point, Frazier comes in. He wants Martin to use a coaster for his beer.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's a fussy boy, that Frazier.
Yep, and Frazier's like, your beer is sweating because it's dripping onto the table, and Martin says, so am I. You want to shove one of these under my can? I'm working on my John Maroney. I feel like I feel like I nailed that. I feel like that came out really good.
You did, Wes. I mean, you didn't do so well in pronouncing his last name, but you did do
Is it not John Maroney?
No, it's not.
It's
John Mahoney.
John Mahoney. Who am I thinking of? John Maroney from the TV show Catfish. He was the supervising producer. I mix them up frequently.
Is that for real?
I can send this link to you. John Maroney on IMDb.
John Maroney. He plays the dad on Frasier.
I do mix that up. I have a different podcast called Frazier on Frazier with a different friend.
So,
yeah.
So we get a doorbell rings. Frazier opens the door, and it's Mrs. Greenway,
right?
Who's another tenant of the building. I suppose.
Frazier is like, "Oh, Ms. Greenway, what a pleasant surprise!" And Ms. Greenway is like, "Your dog fucked my dog," and she bursts her way in, and he's like, "What?" And she is pointing and yelling at this dog, which is kind of an interesting way to start the episode. First of all, Ms. Greenway, I feel like this is something that maybe you could have called beforehand. And maybe it would be an awkward conversation at the door, like, "Hey."
Well, she says that she wasn't sure that it was Eddie until she saw him again.
This would never hold up in court. This would take these puppies, because I'm pretty sure, I am almost 50% sure that it was your dog that had sex with my dog.
I'm 75% sure that it was you.
That is not beyond a reasonable doubt. There's not a family court in the world that would adhere to that.
What's a little bit more baffling to me is that so Martin Frazier initially rejects this. So Miss Greenway's upset, of course, because she's accusing Eddie of doing the dirty with her dog in the park where Eddie sometimes frequents. And getting her pregnant. Mm-hmm. And Frazier's like, oh, well, Eddie's neutered, so he can be. And then she's like, oh, yeah, well, here is this box of puppies.
Right.
And it's just a box of puppies, and they're, little... I forget. What kind of dog is Eddie again?
That's a great question. Eddie from Frasier.
I always forget this.
He is a Jack Russell Terrier.
Right. So it's a box of Jack Russell Terrier puppies.
Right. And
Frasier's immediately like, "Oh my God, it's a box full of Eddies." Which I don't know how. I mean, can you really tell that just by looking at them? Like, yeah, they're Jack Russell Terriers, but you can't. I'm just saying, I think we need to, have Eddie on, whatever the dog version of Maury Povich is.
Right. The dog version of Maury Povich. And make sure that it's I feel like you came very close to saying, but didn't quite say, that all Jack Russell Terriers look alike. And I'm glad we avoided that, Adam. I'm glad we didn't take it there. I really appreciate it.
I'm just saying, I think there needs to be some kind of DNA test. I don't know how we can be so certain. But I guess that would be a much different episode.
That would be
instead.
If that was the entire was Dorothea taking her dog and Frazier taking Eddie onto Maury Povich, but for dogs. Maury Poochvich. I'll find it. We'll get there. But no, that's not what this episode is about. It's actually about taking care of your elderly father. We'll eventually get there.
Right.
But Frazier again disputes. He's like, no, this dog's been neutered. They discovered this puppy. First Dorothea shoves the box. Daphne is
box
like,
full
oh,
of
these
Eddies.
Cute puppies. A box full of puppies, and Dorothea's, I'm glad because they're yours. And then she leaves. And it is... So Frazier pretty quickly takes the explanation. He's like, well, I thought you had Eddie fixed. And Martin's like, well, I didn't. You would know that if you looked at his penis. And then Frazier's like, well, I didn't look at his penis. And then they make it like a joke, but that's what they say. The words they say are, Martin is like, well, you should have looked at my dog's penis. And Frazier is like, I didn't want to look at your dog's penis.
He says, well, I think I've never been that bored.
Sure, I've never been that bored to look at Eddie's penis.
So, suddenly Frazier has this box of puppies. Daphne's very excited about them.
She loves these puppies. Huge.
She immediately wants to name them, and Frazier stops her because dogs only need names when you're planning on calling them, which they're not.
Right.
So he's going to take these puppies down to the radio station, hoping he's gonna, like, it's like when you have a kid and they're like selling Girl Scout cookies or whatever, or gift wrap or whatever. And you take them down to the catalog down to your workplace, and you try and sell for them.
Right. One of those things where you got a clipboard and you're like, hey, my kid's running a 5K. Can I put you down to take these dogs from me? You know how it goes.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, we're going. So he's going to take the puppies down to the radio station to try and get some of them off. Get someone to take them off his hands. He doesn't want them to stay around Eddie too long because he doesn't want them to take after their father. But then it's too late because they start staring at him like Eddie is known to do.
Oh, that Eddie. He likes to stare at Frazier, even though it makes Frazier uncomfortable.
So we get our next scene, title card Catwoman. Mm-hmm. And it's just like we said, Frazier is at the radio station. He's trying to get people to get rid of these puppies for him, and he's got Roz, and he's gonna try and convince her to take them, or some of them. But Roz is already ahead of the game. She knows that Frazier's got these puppies because Betty from accounting called and warned her, and she doesn't want any puppies.
Yeah. Are we ever gonna meet Betty from accounting?
I doubt it.
Ah, man. All right.
We can't meet everybody. I mean, sometimes
we can't meet everybody. I understand.
Yeah. But yeah, we got Roz, and she's going on and on about how she's more of a cat person, is what she says. But Frazier's like, well, maybe if you just had a look at one of them, maybe you'd find that you really are a dog person. And then he gives one of the puppies to Roz, and Roz is very sure, her heart melts, like all of her defenses break down. She's like, oh, aren't you adorable? Aren't you the cutest little fella? And then she does this, and then immediately goes like completely serious again. All the kindness and warmth drains from her face, and then she just like she tosses she does like a football pass the puppy back to Frazier.
Hucks this dog. And then Frazier's horrified, like he's just seen a serial killer shed their mask and show their true self. And Frazier's like, Roz, how can you just toss this puppy aside after such a tender display of affection? And Roz is like, I can do it with men too. And there's a big laugh.
God, the audience loved that line. There were so many like oohs and ha-has and ho-hos and he-he's.
I believe that line is what got them the nomination for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Comedy Series.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
So we get so Frazier. He's got to do a show now. So he's got his first caller, and it's Lily Tomlin.
It's Lily.
Miss
Lily.
Frizzle herself.
Oh my gosh, that's right. That's true. She's known for other things, but she's Miss Frizzle.
She will always be Miss Frizzle to me.
Yeah. I was gonna say other things that she is, but she's mostly Miss Frizzle.
I mean, you can say like, I don't know, the ant bully or whatever.
No, I was good. So she was on Grace and Frankie on Netflix, but she got picked to do that because of other things earlier in her career. I guess the show 9 to 5 was her like first thing. She was in the Ant Bully. You're right there. She was on Murphy Brown.
I Heart Huckabees.
Yeah, she was on.
No Star Trek, as far as I can see.
No Star Trek to report. She was on the Electric Company.
Oh, yeah.
She was part of. Oh, was she a Saturday Night Live cast member? That's cool.
Was she? I don't know.
Let me check. I see her on the thing.
She could have been host.
Oh, maybe she was the host. Let's see. She was the host of Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live.
I'm fucking 3 episodes she hosted America's Funniest Home Saturday Night Live. I'm not.
So yeah, Lily Tomlin. She's a talent.
Yep.
So she's playing a woman by the name of Rita, and she's calling Frazier because she's struggling. She's raising 4 kids.
Right.
The oldest one is 7, or not even 7, and the rest are like under 5. And between all the cooking and cleaning and changing diapers, she feels like she's drowning and she's about to snap.
Now,
and
before we go on, before you get to the meat of the bit, I want to say Lily Tomlin's we have had a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of celebrities having called into the show. We've gotten a wide range of people who decide to actually put something into the performance. We've seen people just kind of deadpan read the line, and then obviously they're like, okay, well, thanks, and then they walk out to their car. We've seen some people like do like a voice, like they're not like in a 30-second little monologue, I completely believed in Rita as a woman having an emotional breakdown on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Like she's stuttery. She really doesn't know what she's gonna do. As she's talking, she's realizing just how much work she has all the time with these 4 children, none of which can take care of themselves because they're all so small, and it's just a constant responsibility, and she doesn't know what to do. She's about to... Like, Lily Tomlin brings it in this call.
Yeah, no, she's a talent. She's very good, and of course, Frazier's response to this heartbreaking tragedy is to suggest that Rita gets a dog. It's a puppy.
Have you considered getting a puppy? And then, yeah.
Right, which that would just exacerbate things. Frazier.
That would just,
you can't.
Frazier, you can't.
I know. You got to get find these dogs homes, but you can't put poor Rita through all that.
I was hoping. I didn't think it would happen. I figured it was just a one-off. I would love if we would occasionally cut through the radio program and Frazier just kept offering dogs to people calling. But
well, I think you get the idea that's what his strategy is. That's what he's going to be doing today.
His primary. That's his MO. That's what
suicidal. Get a puppy.
Ever thought about a dog for your eating disorder? And the whole, yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be his answer for everything today.
Yep.
So we get our next scene. I'm not going to try and pronounce it because it's in French. It's un peu de pâté. I said I was going to pronounce it. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself?
You're so close.
No.
You're halfway there. All it is now is a climb down.
Derriere.
Well, that's derriere.
No, it's not derriere.
That's derriere.
Oh, it is derriere. Okay, derriere les Orieles.
I wouldn't mislead you, Adam. That is derriere.
I mean, I've never seen that written down. I've only heard people say it.
Yeah,
but it's what is it? It translates to what, a little pate behind the ears or something like that.
That's a little something behind the something like that. Let's see if we put it through the old Google.
It's in the IMDb trivia section.
Oh, thank you. A little bit of pate, which is of course French for dough.
We're gonna get to the joke here.
We'll get there. I'm sorry. Yes.
So we cut back to it's Frasier's apartment. We see it's the Thomas family, and they're in Frasier's apartment. They're with Daphne, and Daphne is showing they're here about the puppies, and Daphne is like, oh well, sorry, you can't have this one because it's already taken. We've already found him a home, and yeah, you can't have this one. And then she very quickly shoos the Thomases out of the apartment.
And the Thomases beg, but the children, please. And Daphne forces them out, where presumably they live in the cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as she does this, as the Thomases leave, Frazier comes in from the kitchen. He's like, "Oh, I've got some wine and pate, and where are the Thomases?"
Oh man, they were kicked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Daphne's like, oh, well, they struck me as unfit guardians. And Frasier's like, well, he works at the zoo. The dad works at the zoo. The mom's a nurse. The son's an altar boy. And Kathy's a campfire girl, which is, I guess, campfire girl is the Frasier universe equivalent to Girl Scouts.
I get either that or she's an arsonist. But but only on campgrounds, which is an interesting qualification for Frasier to want for a dog.
So yeah, Daphne says they had a dark aura.
Mm-hmm.
And Frasier's like, well, they had a 10-acre farm. If they'd taken me, I would have gone with them. It's a pretty good joke.
Yeah. As they continue to argue, Niles walks in. He decided to come over because Maris is hosting a senior yoga group for women, and Niles is disgusted by that. I guess he makes like a face again. Sometimes I feel like you can like recount the joke, or sometimes you can say what they really mean and get a laugh that way. And Niles was horrified at the idea of looking at older women's bodies in his home and decided to come over to his brother's house. Right.
So yeah, they're. Niles is like, well, I see the kennel's still open. And Frasier's like, well, Daphne didn't think that the last family was nice enough. And Daphne was like, no, I didn't. The dog didn't think they were nice enough. The dog can sense. Yeah. Right.
They can, the same way like a horse can smell fear, dogs can smell like how charming a person is. And like, I would, most of the time, I've chosen a man just on the way my mom's Springer Spaniel took to them. And Frasier's like, oh, that's ridiculous. Like, your dog was choosing your dates? And Daphne was like, yeah, if a dog likes a man, he's probably warm and sensitive. And we see Niles
hearing
grabbing liver and putting it behind his ear. He scoops some pate, or as it's liver, onto a cracker, and then just puts a little bit of it behind his ears.
And then he goes like, oh well, I didn't get a good look at the puppy, and then he takes the puppy and he holds it up to him, and of course the puppy starts licking behind Niles' ear,
licking his little cheek behind his ear, and he's like, oh Dad, look at that. He said, happy with, and Niles is like, yeah, dogs love me, and Frasier proceeds to ask Daphne to take the dog away and call the Thomases so they'll come back for the dog.
And so this is apparently an actual thing that they do. So in the making of Frasier behind the scenes, apparently if they are needing Moose, the dog who plays Eddie, to be affectionate with someone on the show, they will actually smear pate behind their ears or something. I assume.
Right.
That's actually what they'll do on set in order to get them to show affection.
That is also the only reason dogs show affection at all, is to get salt off of your face.
Is that true?
I love dogs.
I don't have a dog, so
I love dogs with my whole heart, Adam. But most of their love comes from wanting traces of salt because they like the taste on your face.
That is, I did not know that. I'm gonna be skeptical until I can verify that myself later.
That's fair. That's how you should be. Yep, they just like the way your skin tastes. Our skin tastes salty to licking dogs as many of our sweat glands release water and salt. This is from LabradorTrainingHQ.com, where I get all of my news. They had some great election coverage this year.
They're our new sponsor, actually. So
Labrador Training HQ, where you can train your Labrador and also get fashion tips for this hot guy summer.
And learn that your dog doesn't actually love you; they just like salt.
Yep.
Frazier realizes what Niles is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, no. I'm skipping ahead. So, we get Martin comes in. Martin comes into the scene, and Frazier is upset with him because apparently Niles didn't Martin didn't take Eddie out to get neutered as he said he would.
Oh man, Martin, you promised you'd get your dog you'd cut old snip.
Cut that cord.
Martin's like, no, I'm not gonna. I just didn't. You know how it is. Traffic is bad. It's a sunny day. No one in Seattle knows how to drive when it's sunny. And
because it's constantly raining in Seattle.
Because it's raining frequently. And Martin is trying to go to the bathroom, and Frazier's yelling at him through the door, and he's like, Martin's like, I'll call in the morning. And he's like, that's the second time you've canceled. What's the deal? And he's like, it's not I'll call in the morning. Just relax. And Eddie gets on the couch, starts licking Niles behind his ear. And Niles like, oh God, he's licking me. And Frazier notices that there's a whole big dollop of liver behind his ear. And Niles like, oh, I must have picked up a cracker and had liver all over my hands. And then instead of eating it, I just must have scratched an itch behind my ear and then didn't think about it after.
As one does.
And Frazier's like, that's the story you want to go with. And Niles is like, yep. And then we move on.
So because Martin, so Frazier's a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
He can sense that Martin has some sort of reluctance, some sort of psychological reason for perhaps not wanting to take Eddie to go get neutered.
Frazier uses psychology much like a Jedi would use the Force, and he peers into the senses, and he senses a disturbance in Martin, a darkness growing and brewing. And if Martin doesn't deal with these feelings, he will turn to the dark side. So Frazier's got to figure out the issue. He's got to untangle this.
And he decides that, if Martin isn't going to take Eddie to get neutered, then he's got to, because someone's got to be responsible.
Right.
So yeah, they're talking about neutering Eddie, and there's a good little bit where they decide they shouldn't talk about the neutering out loud with Eddie in the room because he may understand what it is they're saying, because he understands other words like bath,
right,
and that freaks him out. So they start talking French.
It is one thing, and this would work, but dogs don't actually understand English. They do understand word sounds in any language. They don't know the word sit. They just know that they associate sounds with behavior and consequences. So you could literally train a dog with gibberish if you wanted to.
And you can stop reading from the Golden Retriever
from
website.
LabradorTrainingHQ.com. Look, we have a sponsor now, Adam. We have to plug.
We already gave them the spot, though.
Look, we give them 2 plugs an episode. I told you that, Adam. It came with the contract we both signed. So
they're.
I would like to add they are also incapable of love. Well, let's go on. Let's continue.
So so Niles and Frazier talking French. They realize that they look ridiculous, and
right.
And they're gonna take him to the vet. They're gonna get Eddie's balls cut off.
They're gonna give him the old snip, the old as Niles refers to it, chez la médecine pour le snip snip, which is French.
That was very good, Wes.
Thank you. I do okay. I'm fine. But we end up at the vet's office, and the title card is Doctor No, which interesting.
James, yeah,
Yeah.
It's a reference to telling no to your doctor, saying no.
Oh, I just got that. Thank
you. So we're going. So, yeah, it's Freddy it's Frazier and is at the vet with Eddie. Martin walks into the vet's office, and Martin's like, he's very upset because you got a lot of nerve, Frazier. You know that. What are you doing with my dog? And Frazier's like, well, I figured I would do this because you seemed so upset by doing it. And Martin's like, well, that's a load of crap.
Yeah. You didn't. You're just being a dick. I don't need you taking charge. He's my dog. I walk him. I feed him. I give him his bag. I don't need you. And then the second Martin finishes yelling this, someone opens up the door and Eddie runs out and he's gone.
Right.
And that's So sort of a bit of irony.
Well, and it's because I think it's because he says bath. So he says Martin says, yes, it does. I'm perfectly capable of taking him just like I feed him, walk him, and give him a bath. And because earlier they were saying that Eddie understands, it's clever. It's a bit
so
clever.
Good. I didn't even well, that's pretty solid writing. That's pretty good.
So yeah, Eddie, hearing the word bath and nothing else, runs out, and Eddie and Martin and Frazier call after them, but he's a dog. He runs away. They can't catch him. Mm-hmm. So later we cut to Frazier's apartment. Martin's on the phone with the police force. He's an ex-cop, so he has resources. If there's a dog missing, he can get the entire police force on it. Doesn't matter that there are murders and rapes and other terrible crimes to be solved. Yeah. We've got to look for this dog.
There's a sting operation right now, but the cops got pulled away just before the big solution, the big where they storm in and take the building.
We're about to bust down this heroin dealer's front door, but
oh, hang on, there's a Jack Russell Terrier in the park. We've got to go do that, and so they do that.
So yeah, so Martin is getting his police friends to look for Eddie, post flyers and things around town. Mm-hmm. Martin has also offered it's what, a $500 reward.
$500 reward.
And Frazier he's
$500, and then Martin glares at it. He's like, "Oh, are you sure that's enough?"
Yeah, he kind of backtracks.
Right.
It's funny.
Martin's like, "It's $500 more than I'd pay to get you back," which got him.
So yeah, it's Martin is not very happy with Frazier. He blames him for Eddie running away, and I mean the fact that Eddie was even at the vet when Martin said he would be the one to do it. So yeah, he's very, very upset with Frazier. Mm-hmm. Daphne gets one of her psychic flashes. Mm-hmm. And she says it doesn't make sense because she can see. We know that Daphne is psychic, like actually fully psychic. Like, and this is one of the perfect examples of that, because she says, "Oh, I'm getting a psychic flash. I'm seeing Eddie, but it doesn't make sense because he's sitting right next to Dr. Crane." And we cut to Eddie somewhere in Seattle, sitting on a bench, and it's got one of those bench advertisements for Frazier's show.
Yeah. I think, and I will say, I have glanced ahead. At the time you're listening to this, audience, I have seen episodes 2, 3, 4, and we continue. It felt like in the first season, Daphne's psychicness was played with as like, okay, this is silly, but also she's very good at like making predictions sometimes. It feels like as the show has gone on, we've leaned more into, no, she has supernatural powers, but it's not the focus of the show, nor will Frazier ever use her to solve his problems. Right.
But she is straight up psychic.
She is.
And this pretty much confirms it.
She has abilities that are just
not present. Of this world.
Yeah, it's odd, but anyway.
so Frazier and Martin, they decide they're going to go down to the park. That's Eddie's hangout. So Martin and Frazier are going to go down there. Martin's like, didn't you ever have a place where you went to that you got lucky? Didn't you go back there again? And Frazier's like, to the park. I think Frazier, I mean, it's not said, but I mean, if there was a place like that for Frazier, wouldn't it have been Cheers?
I feel like it probably would have been Cheers.
I feel like it's a very subtle Cheers reference.
Which is why he kept going there over and over and over again over the course of the show.
Right. Yeah. Well, it had nothing to do with the fact that he was dating, God, I can't even remember her name now. I shouldn't have started saying this.
Diane.
Diane, yeah.
Diane from Cheers.
Shelley Long. There we go.
Yep.
So we cut to the stakeout. And it's Frazier and Martin, and they're in the car together, and they're at the park, and they're keeping an eye out for Eddie.
Yep.
So
we learn a number of Martin's co-workers in his past have wacky nicknames. Old Canteen McHugh.
Right. So the joke is that they're out there, they're sitting in the car, they've been sitting there for hours, and Frazier's like, Dad, maybe you ought to call it a night. We've been here. And Martin's like, this is nothing. I once was at a stakeout for 15 hours and never got out of the car. We had a contest to see who could last the longest. And the winner was old Canteen McHugh. We call him Canteen. Because
he had a bladder the size of a canteen. Frazier's like, thanks. And he's like, you could have slung his bladder over his shoulder and gone a 20-mile forced march through the desert when he was killed in the line of duty at the stakeout, and his dying words were, "Use my bladder as a canteen." They had
to get a separate casket just for his bladder.
one of the only funerals where you have to have two caskets side to side, one for him, one for his bladder.
So we get it's funny. We also Niles calls. Niles is helping out with the search.
Yep.
So Niles calls Frazier on his phone, and Niles is lost. He was apparently he saw a raccoon and he started running, and when he stopped, he had no idea where he was.
Right. Frazier decides to open up the moonroof and start trying to use Boy Scout. He starts to look at the position of the moon.
Why do we have Boy Scouts? Why are Boy Scouts a thing in the Frasier universe? But we have instead of
girls.
Yeah, is Campfire Girl an actual thing? It might be an actual thing.
So I went to
everything's a thing.
I went to LabradorTrainingHQ.com, and according to this, Campfire, formerly Campfire USA and originally Campfire Girls of America, is it is a real thing founded in 1910.
Okay.
Based out of Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay, so and apparently in Seattle too.
Apparently.
So, so Frazier, he's going to use his Boy Scout training to look at to navigate the stars and use that to help Niles get back to the car. Right. And then Martin's just like, listen for the horn, and he just starts honking the horn. And
oh, Martin.
That might be my favorite joke of this episode.
With your common sense, and he starts honking on the horn, and Niles manages to wander through the lush Seattle park, completely and he eventually finds.
Before that, he sees like a wretched hunchback old man. Stay away from me!
Yeah. Oh no, it's just a bush. And just
Niles is very, very frightened by bushes and other things in nature.
I love the idea of him seeing a bush and yelling at it and then realizing it's a bush. Great bit of humor. And then Niles is like, that was a harrowing experience as he gets into the car. And Martin is like, yeah, a shrub and a raccoon in one night. You live to tell about it.
So, yeah, Niles is like, well, I couldn't find Eddie, and, I'm going to go home and hail a cab, and Frazier's like, well, be sure to call us when you get to the curb so we know you're safe. So, yeah, so Niles goes and Martin's like, well, you're probably tired. Why don't you go with him and I'll be okay. And Frasier's like, well, no, Dad, I'm gonna stay for a while longer. Oh, and we kind of blew past this, but earlier when the scene first opened, Frasier said that he had a theory as to why Martin was so reluctant to take Eddie to the vet to get neutered. And Martin, in response to this, says, "If I begged you, would you share it with me?" Very sarcastic.
Very sarcastic. And Frasier's like, God, forget it. If you're gonna be that way.
So Martin, he apologizes like, hey, if I apologize for cutting you off earlier. Why don't you, tell me what it is you're thinking. And then,
first he's like, I've never gone for, the reason I cut you off is I've never gone for psychological mumbo jumbo ever since, they made us go see the squirrel. And Frasier's like, who? He's like, oh, Dr. Bergman, the department. We called him the squirrel. Because guys got sent to him when we got all squirrely. Show you a bunch of ink blots and ask you about your toilet habits. And then he's like, if I wanted to talk about toilet habits, I would have stayed partners with Nate Dombrowski. We nicknamed him the Big, and then Frasier cuts him off. Yeah.
So.
Just a lot of nickname bits for Martin.
Well, yeah. So Frasier says, well, from a psychological standpoint, it makes perfect sense why you would probably be reluctant to take Eddie to the vet to get neutered because, you, Martin, slowly over the years, your responsibilities have been taken away from you and symbolically you feel castrated. Mm-hmm. And Martin's like, well, why does everything got to start in the crotch with you shrinks?
It's like, And Frasier's like, maybe my rules are too rigid. Maybe I should try to chill a little bit. And Martin's like, it's your house. I don't know. It's not easy for a guy like me to not be in charge. And Frasier says, Dad, a lot of people confuse not being in charge with not being respected. And I hope you're not, because even if you're not in charge, I have so much respect for you. I compare myself to you all the time. I just want you to be proud. Martin's like, yeah, fine. And Frasier's like, are you proud? Martin's like, yeah, you're doing fine. Even though you're a big pain in the ass.
All right. So it's a nice little father-son moment. Again, this is really the heart of the episode is Frasier and Martin's relationship, and it's at this point Frasier realizes Eddie jumps on the back of the trunk on the car, and Frasier sees him in the rearview mirror, and then seeing this, Frasier's like, maybe we should go home. Mm-hmm.
Sort of a reveal that as he realizes that he doesn't actually want this dog back in his home, and he tries to pull a quick switcheroo to get them to drive away before Martin discovers Eddie, but he discovers Eddie, and he gets out. He's like, because Eddie barks. Martin goes and scoops him up and sits him in his lap. He's like, boy, good to see you.
And he's like, oh, you're wet. We got to towel you off and get you warmed up. And he grabs some clothing from the back of Frasier's car and wraps it around Eddie. And Frasier's like, Dad, that's a 100% cashmere pullover. And Martin glares at him, and Frasier's like, it's meant to be worn with the collar up.
And he adjusts it on Eddie. And then the credits, we see Frasier, Martin, and Niles are all at the vet's waiting room. Nurse calls to them, they don't move, and then she comes around the counter, grabs Eddie. Eddie looks back at them, and they all cross their legs because they're like, "Man, what if my dick got cut off?" And that's the episode.
So a good episode, I would say overall. What did you think, Wes?
I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. An interest between this and the other episode about Frasier losing his virginity, very clearly there was a lot of sexual repression in the first season that just had to be let out in this season because just a lot of people getting it on, both people and animals in the Frasier-verse in season 2.
Feel like that's going to be maybe the theme for this season?
I can tell you based on, I believe the next episode will cover yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Speaking of the next episode, I don't think we previewed the next episode on our last show.
No.
The next episode we're going to be talking about is season 2, episode 3, The Matchmaker.
The Matchmaker.
Frazier plans to fix up Daphne with his new boss, but it goes awry when Frazier learns his secret. So we'll find out what that secret is. Spoiler alert, it's that he's gay.
He's a gay man. And I will say, this I believe did this win an award? So the episode we just talked about was nominated for a Directors Guild Award. This episode we're going to cover next episode, won the Writers Guild of America Award for television episodic comedy. And it is I'm excited to talk about it because I'm excited to talk about it. That's what I'll leave. I hope you guys come back to talk about it, listen to us talk about it, because I have a lot of thoughts. I think it's very fun. We'll talk about it. I can't wait to talk about it.
Okay, so tune in next week to hear Wes talk about it.
I won't let Adam talk at all.
No, and that's probably for the best. I'm Adam Frazier. I've been your host, Wes Corwin. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
All right. Good night, everybody. The Frazier on Frazier podcast wishes to thank KACL780.net for providing episode transcripts and Ronald O'Connell for providing our theme song, Frazier MIDI.